What's going on, Ma? It's Friday. It's Friday here at the watch party. Did I make you guys nervous? Are you nervous, Darlene? I'm here. Okay, I'm here. Even Naomi, I'm sorry, I always say it wrong. Naomi Nay 420. Did I make you nervous? No technical issues. I mean, none that I know of at this particular situation. I guess you guys are gonna have to tell me in a second whether or not um it's working because I thought it was. I hear me. I see y'all's comments. I see all the nervousness going on in the chat. And you know what? It's worthwhile. I understand why. It's because this week has been insane. This morning I actually got started off a little bit shaky, and I got to being worried again myself. But it wasn't technical issues. It was just all me and having 18 to 25 things to do all at the same time because that's how I operate, you know? So much so, I forgot my damn Friday beverage. I forgot my weekend beverage. My energy drink is not on the shelf. It's not in the refrigerator. It's not next to me. I'm rolling with some water today. What a sorry excuse for a Friday drink. You guys got to do it for me even bigger. If you're drinking something, drink double. Have a double cranberry juice. Hey, all of you folks who drink that disgusting tea, have a double tea for me. That is if that does something different than anything else. It is a Friday and it's fun times. Is this thing gonna work? Let's see if this works really fast. Um, Here, hold on, I'm in the wrong screen. Let's see if this works just to kick off a nice Friday. Oh, he's not working today. Come on, kid. Come on, kid. There he is. There he is. I don't have enough power going to him. I got to plug it into the wall, not into the computer. There's Barry. Barry should be a Friday tradition. I'm trying to lighten up the devastating week that we had. That is all up until yesterday when things actually worked decently enough. Did you guys check the live stream that we did? We had Jessica Burbank in. She hung out with us a little bit. It was fun times. Maybe we'll do things like that a little bit more. But there's so much to talk about. I don't know why I'm still doing this stuff. Joel Liza Pro, someone says, what happened? I'm not sure. Hopefully nothing happened. Here we go. Everybody's good. I think we can go ahead and get started with the news of the day, things that are going on, maybe the destruction of our country, or in this particular case, we can have a little bit more fun today. I mean, kind of yesterday. I feel like yesterday when we talked about, all these ICE agents that are upset and are concerned about their healthcare benefits kicking in. I thought that was a pretty ironic, fun story, even though it's still devastating for the rest of the country that they're working there. Sometimes I'm just grasping for anything. So here's something that made me smile a little bit this morning because Representative James Comer, he's an idiot. I mean, I think everyone already knows that. And he's also, always following behind Donald Trump to do his bidding. So much so, he doesn't think before he acts. And this time he acted, and it may not have been the right action. Here he is talking with Sean Hannity, trying to cover up for all of, the Comer pile that he just stepped in.
James Comer. All right. She wants to tell you how to do your job. You're saying no.
No, look, she has moved the goalpost millions of times throughout this entire process, then fires out an email attacking me today, accusing me of moving the goalpost, and she's the one who's tried to move the goalpost again. She agreed to a standard deposition. The deposition will be made public. So what she's asking for is already going to happen. The deposition will be videoed. You'll have the audio and a transcript. Everyone in America will have access to it. Every deposition I've ever done in the 3 years I've been chairman of the House Oversight Committee, we have released the transcript and the video and the audio. So what she's asking for is already going to happen. But what she really wants, Sean, is a committee hearing. And everyone that's ever watched a committee hearing in Congress, including the one in the House this week with the Treasury Secretary, knows that committee hearings are more for entertainment than substance. The deposition is for substance. This is a serious investigation. The purpose of the investigation is to get justice for the victims and to figure out why the government failed the victims and who the bad guys were and if they can be held accountable. So this is about the victims. This isn't about the Clintons. The Clintons are trying to play the victim cards. The victims of Epstein are the victims, not the Clintons.
James Comer there seems a little bit panicky. He had to go on Sean Hannity's show, and when he goes over to Fox News, like he was doing the entire time he was trying to make this case against the Bidens when they were in office, and he couldn't come up with much. When there's plenty of other things you could have criticized him for, he runs to Fox News. So he went there with Sean Hannity to carry a little bit of water to try and come back from this back and forth that he's got because he got his way. How is it that James Comer is trying to make a case against what he just got his way over. That is, but this subpoena of Bill and Hillary Clinton to talk about those Epstein files, because last I heard, Donald Trump kept talking about how it's a Democratic hoax and maybe we should do something else. Now that maybe something else is being done, they don't want that to be done again. It's the story keeps flip-flopping around. That is because after Bill and Hillary Clinton ignored that subpoena for a while, she posted this as things are changing up. She says, for 6 months, we engaged Republicans on the Oversight Committee in good faith. We told them what we know under oath. They ignored all of it. They moved the goalpost and turned accountability into an exercise in distraction. That's part one in her post in response to what it is that's happening, because she and Bill Clinton have agreed to finally come in. That is after they were ignoring those subpoenas that James Comer was publicizing he was going to, put out for them to get some accountability, because it's all about the victims to James Comer. Here's the second part of her posts. She says, so let's stop the games. If you want this fight, James Comer, let's have it in public. That's the tipping point here for him. She finished by saying, you love to talk about transparency. There's nothing more transparent than a public hearing, cameras on. We will be there, she says. James Comer got what he wanted. James Comer got exactly what he's been begging for. I'm trying to figure out, there was this one little phrase. It was just 2 words, in public, that has him now trying to backpedal from what it is that he wanted, that he fought so hard for, that he even for months was talking about how he's going to hold them in contempt. This is from, a little earlier in this year, right at the beginning in January. This is him talking about what he wants.
And we have bent over backwards to try to schedule the no, I'm still talking. I'm still talking. Go ahead. Hey, get him out of here. You're not even a reporter. Get out of here. So here's the situation. We're going to hold both Clintons in criminal contempt of Congress. We believe that because this subpoena was issued in a bipartisan fashion, the Democrats acted the day that the subpoenas were voted on in the subcommittee like they wanted the Clintons to come, because they at that time, if you go back, they were wanting me to subpoena the estate, which I did. We subpoenaed the estate and got all the documents, everything. That was what the victims asked. That's what the Democrats asked. I think that's what the American people wanted. We subpoenaed the state, got 100% of the documents. I have subpoenaed the Department of Justice and Pam Bondi for the documents, which they are producing. Now, we don't like the speed. We all wish the documents would come in quicker, but we've gotten tens of thousands of pages of documents from the Department of Justice.
James Comer was having some issues walking that tightrope between continuing to implicate only Bill and Hillary Clinton and not Donald Trump, all of which, I don't know about Hillary, but both of which, Bill and Donnie, are in those Epstein files. It's weird that he's got to try and walk that tightrope, because his whole objective is to make this as partisan as possible when they keep talking about Democrats. It's a Democratic hoax. It's insane. But there he was threatening that this contempt process for the Clintons for ignoring that subpoena. So as he's been trying to walk this tightrope, this is also what he's been pushing around, because he was asked directly. We've seen this video, but I want to show you guys again the way this has come together, because it's now beginning to fall apart under his shaky ground. He was asked again, why the Clintons and not including Donald Trump?
President Trump's name is mentioned more than 1,000 times in these documents. Why not try to get more information from him? Try to get him to testify.
Yeah. Well, I've noticed that every time you all do a gaggle like this with President Trump, somebody asks him about Epstein. So he's been answering questions about Epstein.
Not under oath.
But, has Bill Clinton ever answered any questions on Epstein or Hillary Clinton? So this is going to be a new opportunity, and we'll go from there.
President Trump.
It's weird. James Comer wants to talk about the victims. This is about the victims. It's about the victims. It's about the victims. That is when he's talking about the Clintons coming in and talking. When he's talking about Donald Trump coming in and talking, because it would still be about those victims, you would think, but now he's no longer interested in mentioning those victims or looking to get as much accountability as possible, because Donald Trump, also according to Mike Johnson, was like the #1 whistleblower on this whole Epstein thing. Mike Johnson, you remember, he also said in his litany of lies that Donald Trump was like coordinated with the FBI to go and bust Jeffrey Epstein. That was a lie too, before someone blew that up in his face as well. This is an explanation of what is that's happened now, in case we're missing a little bit of this. The Bulwark gave a little bit of a breakdown of why James Comer has run from his objective of getting the Clintons in The difference being in public. Chairman of the House Oversight Committee, James Comer, accomplished another feat this week by successfully compelling former President Bill Clinton and former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton to testify in the committee's ongoing investigation of all those things about Jeffrey Epstein. Now, they had previously, as I pointed out, rebuffed all of their contempt, all of their subpoenas, and they were getting threatened with that contempt. Here's a quote that James Comer put out in this statement. He says, once it became clear that the House of Representatives would hold them in contempt, the Clintons completely caved and will appear for transcribed, filmed depositions this month. He was very happy to announce that, He wanted to make sure people knew, I got another win, right? It was a little bit empty, though, because now the problem is Donnie doesn't really want that. Here's how they explain it. It was a rare and revealing moment for the president in that he seemed to show an understanding of this bigger picture and what he doesn't want. To make clear what he realized was House Republicans have just created this precedent in doing this that allows Congress to compel former presidents to testify under the threat of contempt, which can result in charges that may lead to some jail time. And Trump could be the next person to be targeted in this way if these circumstances don't then change on Capitol Hill, the bulwark says. Donald Trump does not want to be called in. Donald Trump wants to deflect as many times as possible. James Comer is his puppet in the House that's supposed to be pushing this and say, it's not about Donald Trump. He answers questions all the time. I'm not going to call him in, though. We want to call in other folks so we can get the attention away from Donald Trump, who's listed thousands upon thousands of times with many disgusting child sex trafficking allegations in those files, which we're still discovering more and more of, which we still haven't even been given all of those files yet, which led to us getting to a chance to review why Donald Trump, after all the things that he's been saying, after all the things that James Comer's been pushing in the name of Donald Trump, suddenly doesn't sound so interested in the Clintons coming in and testifying. It's because of this problem with maybe us getting some information he doesn't want out, and also him having to go in or be jailed.
Today, we heard that the Clintons set deposition dates to testify before the House Oversight Committee. Any reaction to that related to the Epstein question?
I think it's a shame, to be honest. I always liked him. Her, she's a very capable woman. She was better in debating than some of the other people, I will tell you that. She was smart woman. I hate to see it in many ways. I hate to see it. But, then I look at me. They went after me like... they wanted me to go to jail for the rest of my life. Then it turned out I was innocent, very innocent.
Why is it suddenly a shame for Donald Trump to get Bill and Hillary Clinton to then come in? It's weird. It's like he's afraid of what might come out next. It's like they tell so many lies from so many different places and they contradict each other, including himself with his own lies. You have to start backpedaling. So here's a little bit more of that backpedaling.
NBC News broke the story today. I don't know if you saw it, that the Democrats are already saying, if you bring President Bill Clinton and he has to testify, we're bringing President Trump. What do you say to that?
I think they might say that, but they've already brought me. See, I've been brought. They had me indicted many times. Many times.
And the president had some surprising thoughts about former President Bill Clinton.
It bothers me that somebody's going after Bill Clinton. See, I like Bill Clinton. I still like Bill Clinton.
What do you like about him?
I liked his behavior toward me. I thought he got me. He understood me. He was the one that said very famously that you don't want to run against Trump when there were 18 people. There was 18 people, including me, total. And he kept telling them, you don't want to run against Trump. Run against anyone. Don't run against Trump. And Hillary sort of laughed at him.
Epstein.
He wasn't ready for that very, very simple follow-up. I mean, I still like Bill Clinton. By the way, those are his secret cues to all of his puppets that are supposed to be pulling these strings to try and make things work in his favor. Yo, pull back on it. Stop it. I like Bill Clinton now. Remember, I like Bill Clinton. A very simple follow-up question from Tom Alamas when he said, what do you like about him? I like what he says about me. His default always goes straight back to himself. I like that Bill Clinton said good things about me one time. Therefore, I've always liked Bill Clinton. The memo has been spread. Donald Trump is flipping. Bill Clinton is now a good guy. Bill Clinton apparently is Donald Trump's best friend. The memo went all the way up to the press secretary, Caroline Levitt.
Thank you so much, Caroline. Yesterday, President Trump, in the NBC interview, said that it bothers me that somebody is going after Bill Clinton. That somebody is the House Oversight Chairman, James Comer, a Republican. Why is the president bothered that they're investigating Bill Clinton and his Epstein ties?
Look, I think that the president has respect for the former president of the United States, Bill Clinton. He said yesterday himself they've shared a good relationship, and that's what he was reiterating in that NBC interview.
Nobody is buying that bullshit. Everyone knows what has always been said between Donald Trump about Bill Clinton, specifically when it comes to Epstein files, because before it got this close to him, before the heat was right next to his ass, he was constantly talking about Bill Clinton to try and shed some of that responsibility that they probably potentially both share in what comes from these files that we continue to see in more details from. And in case you forgot, there's this weird thing, these recordings where Donald Trump talks about how much he wants them to investigate Bill Clinton.
I want to talk about that. What I do want to say is that Todd is a great attorney, but you ought to be speaking about Larry Summers. You ought to be speaking about some of his friends that are hedge fund guys. They're all over the place. You ought to be speaking about Bill Clinton, who went to the island 28 times. I never went to the island. I want to talk about.
That's confusing. Should we be speaking about Bill Clinton that went to the island 28 times? Because Donald Trump said you should be talking about Bill Clinton. And now that we're talking about Bill Clinton in a place where they would have to be having these hearings publicly under oath in front of the American people, where it can't be manipulated behind closed doors the way James Comer originally thought that he would get it to be done. Suddenly, it's different. But before that, it was you should talk about Bill Clinton. Which one is it, bro? Should we talk about Bill Clinton or should we talk about the fact that you can't get your story straight? He did it so many times. Here's another one of those times when he keeps bringing up Bill Clinton.
That was it. I'm glad I did, if you want to know the truth. And by the way, I never went to the island, and Bill Clinton went there supposedly 28 times. I never went to the island, but Larry Summers, I hear, went there. He was the head of Harvard. And many other people that are very big people. Nobody ever talks about them. I never had the privilege of going to his island. And I did turn it down, but a lot of people in Palm Beach were invited to his island. In one of my very good moments, I turned it down. I didn't want to go to his island. Yeah.
It's weird, huh? This is how limited his mindset works. They thought at every moment of his lying spree when it comes to the Epstein files, because we see he's in there thousands and thousands and thousands of times, each one of these lies was supposed to end the questioning. It was supposed to end investigations. It was supposed to end anyone's interest in it, because he's an egomaniac and he thinks if he tells everyone how to think, they'll just think that way. But that only works for these red hat wearers, that every time he tells them how to think, they nod their heads and go, oh, yes, thank you, mein Führer. That's what they do. So he thought this was going to continue to work, because we can go through the list of lies. I probably can't even keep up with all of them. The original one was supposed to be like, are we still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? That guy's been dead for years. Remember, we're supposed to stop talking about it then. Then it was the Democratic hoax. It was a Democratic hoax, so therefore we're supposed to stop talking about Jeffrey Epstein. And then it moved on to, well, you know, Bill and Hillary Clinton are in it. Did you know that Larry Summers is in it? And it was like, yeah, sure. We see that he's in it. Let's continue to talk about it. And he, for some reason, he thought each of these lies was going to get him folks to stop talking about these Epstein files and how deeply and directly connected he's been. There's been so many lies and deflections. He thought it was going to work. This is the latest one. This is only from like a week ago. He was hoping. This is hope against hope. He brings up Clinton one more time. And this time he was hoping to maybe send a signal to Democrats to maybe back off, because Bill Clinton is in it too. This didn't work either.
The amount of time that's being wasted. You know, when Epstein was alive, like 10 years ago, nobody cared about it. But they're only doing it. But now it's really hitting back on them, because Bill Clinton is such a big part of it. The Democrats are pushing it. And the problem is that it's turning out to be the Democrats that were with and conspired with Epstein. So I think you're probably going to see a little pullback from them. But think of it. They were working together to try.
Oh, that's right. That was the other lie too. They were working to conspire against me, and everything that we're seeing in these files actually exonerates me. But what he was really hoping, the last hope against hope, was I think we're going to see Democrats pull back on this. we haven't seen them pull back on this. Because if your buddy, your best friend, the one it's a shame that you see get have to testify for your boy James Comer is in it, we want him to go down too. Let's get it all out there. That's the thing that he misses. He has such a hyper-partisan mindset, and he's got all of his lackeys around him who've willing to change their principles for his ass so much. He thinks that everyone in the country is like that. Specifically, younger progressives, younger Democrats, younger liberals. They're like, I don't give a damn about these old, crusty, disgusting Democrats that do horrible things and have been a part of destroying our lives and kowtowing to the BS that you guys pull off and having these fake weakness behind all of their stances and acting like they're in opposition to you. Yeah, folks are coming after Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer too, because they've been complacent in the middle of all of this for so long. Nobody gives a damn about these ancient Democrats that have screwed us over either. This is why he's losing this argument. What he's used to, what he's used to are ass kissers. Ass kissers like Lindsey Graham. I'm gonna get to Lindsey Graham in a second. I want to go and like this stream really fast since we wrapped up that whole first story. Come like it with me if you haven't done that yet. How could you forget such a thing? That's like something I do because I do 100 things at the same time. Join me in that endeavor. And also don't forget, after we're done with all these stories, they're going to be up on the page later over on the watch list. So you guys can check those out, share those streams as well. And if you enjoy what we're doing, go ahead and, subscribe to the channel. You'll be able to know when we're doing this and other things as well. Sometimes I may just pop in with a random live with fun people and we can discuss things. You won't know it unless you subscribe. Let's go do that as well too. Now, moving on to one Lindsey Graham. He also ran to Fox News. I believe it was also Sean Hannity's show that he ran to. This is the situation here. Lindsey Graham has some begging to do. It's a little familiar, but he's definitely really good at begging, but only to Sean Hannity, I guess.
There are millions of people watching. If you can give $10, $20, whatever you can give, I'm going to take half that money and give it to my fellow Republicans to hold the Senate. If we hold the Senate, we get judges through. If we have the Senate, I'll be Judiciary Chairman in 27, and we'll get the train running again for judges. LindseyGraham.com. You can pray, you can volunteer, but please give. We're getting wiped out financially. I don't know where the hell all this money is coming from, but everybody out there, if you can help tonight. The money goes to a good cause. It's going to save our country. God bless Donald Trump. We're not backing up. We're going to be right.
Calm down, Lindsey. Chill, relax, take a breath. You know, when Lindsey Graham steps on Fox News and gets to begging and screaming and asking for money and talking about, I don't know where the money's coming from. They're kicking us. They're killing our ass. I can't believe it. What is going on? Please help me. Give me $1. Give me $5. Because if we don't get back and continue to hold power, everything that we've been building around this criminal president is going to fall apart. That sounds like a pretty good pitch to not give you any money. So like I said, Lindsey Graham has a track record. And when he's panicking, he goes on to Fox News and he begs for money. This was from a few years ago. He was begging for money too. Look closely at his teary eyes.
Calls a unreliable dirtbag. So what's behind all this? Hatred. They tried to destroy Kavanaugh because they wanted to keep the Supreme Court seat open. They're trying to destroy Donald Trump because they fear him at the ballot box. To the conservatives out there, make sure you vote. If you got friends, make sure they vote. If you don't have any friends, go make some friends. But you need to help this man, Donald J. Trump. They're trying to drain him dry. He spent more money on lawyers than most people spend on campaigns. They're trying to bleed him dry. DonaldJTrump.com. Go tonight. Give the president some money to fight this bullshit. This is going to destroy America. We're going to fight back at the ballot box. We're not going to give in. How does this end, Sean? Trump wins in court and he wins the election. That's how this ends. And how do you get to 34 counts on this in your view?
I love awkward silences when they have delays on television. That was when Lindsey Graham was over there begging for money to help Donald Trump during his legal issues. Man, this guy got caught up in all these legal problems, and Lindsey Graham kept going on Fox News to beg for money because that was even before he won in 2024. Help us out. We need more money because Donald Trump is an effing criminal. And the sooner we get him back in office, the more we can keep all of us from being implicated in all of these illegal activities. It wasn't the only time. Listen, this was another time. Still, during Trump's issues with all of his criminal activity.
2024 is the most important election in my lifetime. America literally is at stake as we know it, I'm sorry, I'm so upset, but please help President Trump. If you can afford $5 or $10, if you can't afford $1, fine, just pray. Make sure you vote as early as you can in your state. Don't risk anything anymore. Vote as soon as you can. Pray for this country. Pray for this president. And if you got any money to give, give it. LindseyGraham.com. It doesn't go to me. It goes to helping this president and taking back the Senate. Let's stand up for this president. Let's stand up for this country. And let's don't take this crap anymore. We all can help.
The man's got spittle sticking from the top and bottom of his lip as he begs for money. He keeps going on TV and asking for cash. Bro, man, like this is crazy. Like panhandling on television for a billionaire. And this guy's also got his money. Just send it to LindseyGraham.com. Please send it to me. I promise I'll pass it on to the president. It's not going to go to me. I promise. You can send it to Lindsey Graham, man. I can't give it to anybody else. Donald Trump owns me. So everything that I have, he's got access to my accounts, bro. He might drain them, actually. I need more money. Please, the president is controlling me. I don't know what else to do. I promise this is the last one. This one I had more fun with. This was a compilation of a few moments of him doing the same thing.
My opponent will raise almost $100 million, Ainsley, in the state of South Carolina. I'm getting outraised 3-1, outspent 4-1. If you want to help me fight back, go to LindseyGraham.com. $5 or $10. He raised $6 million from the time Justice Ginsburg passed away within 72 hours. Get into the game. They're killing us financially. I'm in South Carolina, not exactly a liberal state. My opponent's going to raise $80 million. I need conservatives to help me. You need to help us all. But I'm being killed financially. This money is because they hate my guts. I'm getting overwhelmed. LindseyGraham.com. Help me. They're killing me money-wise. Help me. You did last week. Help me again. Help me. Help me. Help us all. Help me. Help me. Help me again.
Help me. So help my gut hate. They hate my guts. That's not a very good political pitch when you're running for office. I gotta win again. Did you know my constituents hate my guts? I need some money. They hate me. Please help me again. Geez, how did this guy stay in office? I'm trying to, you know what? I might start subscribing to some of these conspiracy theories about rigged elections, except they're working in favor of Lindsey Graham, who keeps begging for money. Geez, have a little bit of principle here, bro. Pick your shame up off the floor, kid. You got some money, right? Pay for your own legal fees. Raise some money with all those people who you guys claim give you mandates all the time. Instead, you're on Fox News begging. How pathetic. This is this strong ass party following Lindsey Graham's ass around, who's following behind Donald Trump's stank booty. What are we doing here? Just pay attention to how pathetic these people sound. But let's fast forward to, I think it was even last night. Lindsey Graham with his filthy mouth, you saw him say BS on air with Sean Hannity before when he's begging for cash. This time, he's not very happy about the negotiations and the potential government shutdown as Democrats are trying to negotiate, for some reason, some kind of changes before they allow DHS to continue to get funded. So Lindsey Graham is upset again.
So they want to institutionalize aiding and abetting law breaking, take it a step further, and obstruction. And then they want to reward those people that broke laws with your hard-earned tax dollars and benefits, right? Healthcare, education, etc.
Total bullshit.
I don't
Stop it.
Let me
stop it.
Let me put, now they don't even want any election. So they want.
I guess the cussing even made Sean Hannity a little bit uncomfortable that time. I mean, I got to cuss on air so you guys can finally, start taking me seriously. By the way, I'm gonna get to the more details of this negotiations in the process, what they're trying to do as far as DHS. But he came on incensed. He came on upset. But he revealed something. Lindsey Graham revealed something that he wasn't. I don't think he was planning for this, but since he gets so upset, he doesn't really have his mind in control anymore. In this particular case, as he's trying to make their case for how they need to continue to give DHS all of our money so they can continue to terrorize communities across the United States, he accidentally slipped and stepped into it and showed his authoritarianism because he's falling behind an authoritarian.
Judicial warrants. That's a joke. If you had to get a warrant for 15 million people, nobody'd be deported. This is an administrative action by the President of the United States. You're not entitled to be here. We can administratively send you out. They want to go to a federal judge, which means to me, they don't want to do a damn thing. So
judicial warrants are a joke to Lindsey Graham. Judicial warrants are a joke. As a matter of fact, going to a federal judge, why would we do something like that? Let's keep pace for the progression of this authoritarianism, this dismissal of the judicial branch, since it's the only one that's like 50% still in place. The Congress is completely taken. That's why Lindsey Graham is on TV doing this. He represents how all these Republicans do everything Donald Trump tells them to. But now we've gone from Stephen Miller and Donald Trump talking about how we need to bypass the judicial branch, and now Lindsey Graham is saying it's a joke to get warrants before you go and attack people, before you then go deport them. Well, we can't have warrants. Warrants are a joke. This is what Lindsey Graham, who's representative of this MAGA Republican Party, have become. But I want to show you guys, to wrap this whole thing up, this is where we see Lindsey Graham now. But this is Lindsey Graham back in 2015. Lindsey Graham, when he was running for, I believe, president against Donald Trump in these primaries, and he wasn't, committed to being under Donald Trump's foot, he told a couple few truths. And his predictions, or the people that he's talking to, are oddly fit the mold of who he is right now. Lindsey Graham, 2015.
I want to talk to the Trump supporters for a minute. I don't know who you are, and I don't know why you like this guy. I think what you like about him, he appears to be strong when the rest of us are weak. He's a very successful businessman, and he's going to make everything great. He's going to take all the problems of the world and put them in a box and make your life better. That's what he's selling. Here's what you're buying. He's a race-baiting, xenophobic, religious bigot. He doesn't represent my party. He doesn't represent the values that the men and women who wear the uniform are fighting for. I've been in the Air Force for 33 years. I retired this June. He's the ISIL Man of the Year, by the way. Just got back from Iraq a week ago this Monday.
I know. We interviewed you live from there. You were with Senator John McCain, and you were going into Iraq to get a status report. What were they saying there about all of this?
The military leadership and the diplomatic corps. Now, we have young men and women in harm's way all over the world, particularly in the Mideast. They were concerned about this rhetoric because the enemy will use it against us. So what was a concern last week has to be DEFCON 4 this week. Because what Mr. Trump is doing, and I don't think he has a clue about anything, he's just trying to get his numbers up and get the biggest reaction he can. He's putting our soldiers and diplomats at risk. He's empowering the enemy. And this ban, if it's actually enacted, would take people who have been interpreters, who came to our side in Iraq and Afghanistan, who are under siege in their own countries, and basically becomes a death sentence for them. I want to talk.
Lindsey Graham called Donald Trump a race-baiting, xenophobic, religious bigot. Now Lindsey Graham kisses Donald Trump's ass. Now Lindsey Graham says Donald Trump is the best thing that's ever happened to the Republican Party, and apparently the country as well. Now Lindsey Graham can't get enough of Donald Trump. What happened? When Lindsey Graham was running for the presidency in 2015 and he said all that stuff, did he believe that? Or was John McCain still alive? And that was his best friend at the time. And Lindsey Graham needs somebody to glom onto. And John McCain didn't like him some Donald Trump. So therefore, Lindsey Graham also didn't like him some Donald Trump. John McCain dies. Lindsey Graham needs, I guess, a new host to leech onto in order to survive. So he leeched on to Donald Trump. And since Donald Trump's ass is covered in feces, he's like this mushroom that grew from it. And he's become a mushroom version of Donald Trump that does everything that Donald Trump's ass tells him to do because that's what he survives off of. Don't listen to people like Lindsey Graham. But he was on to one thing, which leads me to the next story, which I was 50-50 on doing. But I have a secondary point to make about what it is that we've seen, as Lindsey Graham called him, a race-baiting, xenophobic, religious bigot. One Donald Trump posted something last night. I know everyone saw it. I know everyone heard about it. I get it. Like I said, I kind of wasn't going to talk about it because really, who cares? Breaking news. Donald Trump is an effing racist. We knew that. But still, everyone was talking about it.
And of course, overnight, he put out a Truth Social post that was a racist post depicting the former president of the United States and First Lady as monkeys, as primates. And, you know, all you're doing is making yourself look pathetic, Republicans, for not standing up to this open racism and bigotry. Again, in normal times, would end somebody's political career that day. And every Republican
or any career
in normal times.
Yeah, unambiguously racist post amplified by the president of the United States about a former president of the United States and a former first lady of the United States. And I think it's safe to say we can predict this well, that Republicans will say either I didn't see the post or sometimes he just retweets or retruths or whatever. And we can't hold him accountable for all the crazy things he does. And that's just the pattern, but he should be held accountable.
So since everyone was talking this morning about the post that Donald Trump put up last night, which was a video that included these racist images of the former president and his first lady, the response was generally that, I think. Like I said, I was trying not to pay too close of attention to it because, again, it's no surprise that Donald Trump is a racist. It's what people who've always recognized him have been saying for his entire life. It's just this particular instance is him giving a call and a shout out to his fellow racists, because this is an admission from Donald Trump that this is where he gains his power. I've been saying it since he got into office the first time. Donald Trump's policies, his positions, his agendas, his things that he promised the American people was something that they didn't even realize or think that he was going to do for them. What they were attracted to was his racism. This is a racism issue in this country that goes as far back as its beginnings. So Donald Trump tapped back into that. That's where his appeal came from for people. The racism, the bigotry, the separation, the feeling like you're better than other people. He's exhibited that. This is him now grasping for the last straws that he's got. Because the things that Donald Trump did his entire life that we already knew about his racism, when he got sued for making sure that black folks couldn't rent in his apartment buildings back in the 80s or whenever that happened, or when he tried to get some young black men killed, when he pulled out a full page ad and said that they killed this woman in Central Park. You know, the things that he did that would actually affect people's lives, that he's always done to affect people's lives. Those are the things that people that really want to talk about the racism that courses through Donald Trump's veins really means. This whole thing about how he posted about the Obamas is like the basic stuff. We know that. That's childhood racism. That's where Donald Trump sits right now. But that's where he thinks he gets his power from. But at the back end, I think that's Willie Geist there from the Morning Joe crew pointed out what we may hear from Republicans that are looking to defend Donald Trump. And damn it, Willie, you nailed it, bro. Here's this guy I've never heard of, Representative Mike Haridopoulos. He stepped in and did exactly what Willie Geist said they would do.
Congressman, I want to ask you about a video that President Trump posted on Truth Social overnight. He's got millions of followers there. The video was about voter ID and election reform, but at the end, and I don't know if you can see this, it included a brief image of the Obamas, an overtly racist image of the former First Lady and the president as apes here. Now, it was at the end of the video. I don't know for sure whether the president saw it, but is this the type of message a president of the United States, under any circumstance, should be sending out to millions of people?
Well, I had not seen that video till you just showed it to me, but there's like what I've tried to do, and I tried to do it on your show today.
Yeah.
The number one thing that we need to do is elevate the conversation. I want to have more transparency in the government. It's the reason, even though I'm a conservative, I come on CNN. Let's have a thoughtful discussion about how we move forward in reforming our election systems. We have challenges overseas in Iran, and I hope we can elevate our debate in general in America, because what I saw recently this week in my own financial services committee were Democrats yelling at our own Secretary of the Treasury because they're worried about losing a primary campaign.
But and again, in the theme of elevating the discussion, and I know you weren't aware of that video. I don't think you were before we just showed it to you. But should it remain on True Social? Is that the kind of thing in the spirit of elevation you would like to see the president take down?
Well, I'll take a look at it right after our show. You kind of threw it at me right here.
Yeah.
But it's something, again, all I can control is what I can control. That's my mom and dad taught me. And what I try to do is elevate the conversation. We had a great hearing, for example, this week with NASA, bipartisan support, making sure we're winning the space race. I'm proud to be on that committee led by Dr. Babin and making sure that we are #1 in space. And we can have bipartisan cooperation on DHS as well, as you mentioned, with body cameras and more training. After all, we put it in the budget in the House already this year.
Yeah, no, I know you represent a good deal of the Space Coast. Two things I care about a lot, the space race and also history. Come back on. We'll talk.
Mike Karadopoulos apparently didn't see it. I didn't hear about it. I didn't know anything about it. I mean, I have no idea. Doesn't it make you a little unqualified that the guy that you're kissing ass for, you have no idea what he's talking about? You have no idea his racist positions, and you continue to defend him? Actually, that's irresponsible, Mike. You going on TV and acting like you didn't see or hear anything that happened because you want to talk about the space race doesn't help you out. In fact, it makes you look worse. You know what else? Mike Karadopoulos, even on a different topic that he also didn't want to talk about, that is Tulsi Gabbard and her participation in this raid of those Georgia election offices so they can, coordinate and manipulate that election and act like it was stolen in 2020. He was asked about that too. You won't be surprised. Mike Karadopoulos didn't hear about anything this morning.
Can you at least agree that the stories are different? What Tulsi Gabbard said, what President Trump said. I mean, President Trump's own accounts are different here. Will you at least agree there's a discrepancy here?
Well, this is the first I've heard of this story. I don't follow this one as close as CNN does. But what you presented to us, it sounds like an issue where let's clear it up and move on to issues that people really care about.
You talked about the possibility of Homeland Security. Can you?
Why do you keep giving him exit ramps? John Berman there from CNN kept giving him those exit ramps. If Mike, if you haven't heard about, anything, if you don't know anything about Tulsi Gabbard, if you don't know anything about Donald Trump's racist posts and his general racism, and which is translated into racist, xenophobic policy, apparently you don't know about that either. Maybe you should know something more about things. I have a good idea, Mike Karadopoulos. Hey, take your mic off. Give it to the sound guy with the black shirt on. He'll take that from you and get the fuck out of here. What are you still doing here? Why do we have you on? I sprung questions on you about your president, about your party, about the positions that they're taking, about how they're raiding offices. If you haven't heard about them raiding offices, I guarantee you once they come out and say that all of those things that they found in their raid of the offices has revealed how much the 2020 election was stolen from them, I have a good chance to think that Mike Karadopoulos is going to say, I think Donald Trump is on the up and up. I do think that election was stolen. I mean, we're looking at what Tulsi Gabbard did. I think he's going to have a lot of information about it once Donald Trump allows him to have information on it so he can piggyback and then back his ass up. I'm so tired of these weaklings. Hey, John Berman, I wish you'd have been like, you know what? How about we go ahead and show it to you right now then? Maybe you have some immediate thoughts about it. Maybe you should think about what it is that you're talking about. Or maybe you shouldn't even come on anymore. But this is the reason why I wanted to talk about it, outside of Mike Karadopoulos. There's a lot of black MAGA conservatives. I'm sorry, that was my mistake. There's a few black MAGA conservatives. Most of them are doing it for their own benefit, maybe something they can get out of it. They have no shame. They don't mind lowering themselves for white supremacists so they can get a couple crumbs from his plate. One of those people is Senator Tim Scott. Tim Scott. He posted about this video that Donald Trump posted that included those images. He said, praying it was fake because the most racist thing I've seen out of this White House. The president should remove it. Oh my God. Tim Scott is praying to his deity, Donald Trump, that he remove the images because apparently it's the most racist thing he's seen out of this White House. Maybe that's the first problem, Tim Scott. It's the most racist thing you've seen out of this White House. You ain't seen nothing else for the entire time of Donald Trump's existence until this. And now, even after this all passes and we go back into Monday and the weekend gets a chance for people to talk about the next devastating thing that this guy's done, I have a good thought that Tim Scott is going to no longer think that's the most racist thing ever. And if he did, he would take his ass and leave that party. He would start speaking out against them. He'd start pointing out the things that he's heard, has been told, has seen. But no, Tim Scott is going to continue to walk around on his knees behind the guy who he just said posted the most racist thing he's ever seen. But he's going to pray about it. Let's take a walk down memory lane to show you guys who Tim Scott has been when it comes to Donald Trump. I just talked about Lindsey Graham, who was kissing Donald Trump's ass and trying to raise some money during his legal issues. This was Tim Scott's response to Donald Trump getting caught up in, catching those cases for all those crimes that he was committing.
I can't believe the hoax, this sham, this absolute injustice justice system. DA Bragg and the judge should be ashamed of themselves. This isn't just ridiculous. This actually erodes the confidence that Americans have in the justice system. Unbelievable, unfreaking believable. But good news is coming. DA Bragg, hear me clearly. You cannot silence the American people. You cannot stop us from voting for change. Joe Biden's injustice, Joe Biden's two-tier injustice system, weaponizing the justice system of the United States of America against a political opponent, un-American. Joe Biden, you're fired. We the people stand with Donald Trump.
Donald Trump. That was before. That was again during his all of his criminal activity and all those court proceedings. That was the fake outrage that Tim Scott had to put forward because Tim Scott was still looking for a couple of crumbs from Donald Trump's plate. And after a couple of those crumbs fell from Trump's plate, Tim Scott was on the ground scrounging for some of them. That is until he stood up behind him at this rally where they were talking about how he was going up against Nikki Haley, also from South Carolina, just like Tim Scott. Do you guys remember this moment?
Did you ever think that she actually appointed you, Tim? And think of it, appointed, and you're the senator of his state, and she endorsed me. You must really hate her. No, it's a shame. It's a shame. Uh-oh.
I just love you.
No, that's why he's a great politician.
I just love you. I just love you. Was it working, Tim? Hey, did it work out? Did it work out yet? Because they were talking about Nikki Haley, which he also said some bigoted things about her ethnicity and background as well. But apparently Tim Scott didn't have any issues with that. He's praying right now that the post that we saw was fake, that he apparently thinks that Donald Trump should take down. So after he was standing there behind him and the rest of the cabal of all those people who were looking to maybe become Donald Trump's running mate, he was asked specifically by Fox News and Brett Baer, what about Tim Scott potentially as your running mate, since he keeps kneeling to you and saying how much I love you, Donald?
Is Senator Tim Scott on the list now?
No, he's a great guy. He endorsed me. There's an example. Nikki comes from South Carolina. Tim Scott is from South Carolina. But if you look, the governor, great governor, another senator, Lindsey, we happen to like Lindsey, but Henry McMaster knows her very well. He endorsed me. It's very hard for a governor to endorse somebody when you have, Henry McMaster was the lieutenant governor under her, and he endorsed me. Almost everybody in South Carolina has endorsed me. What does that tell you?
So you ask about the vice presidential, and then we get into the critique of one of the current rivals.
Even the lackeys on Fox News noticed how Donald Trump avoided the question about, is Tim Scott on your short list for a running mate? he got to talking about everything else, except for Tim Scott potentially being his running mate. Because why would this racist white supremacist get your dark ass on his running mate ticket to maybe destroy his plans to, have this white supremacist dictatorial administration that he's running? Why would he do such a thing? He needs you, Tim Scott, to still stay in your place, out of sight, out of mind, but still talking about how much you love you. I love you, Donald. Oh, I love you. Hey, here's how much he loves him. He propelled him up to deity status here.
When ordinary people stand up and respond to the call of God, extraordinary things happen. Think about President Trump. 2 assassination attempts. We must believe, Daniel 2 talks about he chooses the leaders. We must believe that there is something unique and specific that God wants to accomplish, and he chooses the people. They have to say yes, of course. Free will still matters. But there's no way you can look at the last 2 years of this country's history and not come to one conclusion. God is still at work in America, and he's not finished.
That's great. We need to hear that. Yes. And even Donald Trump says his faith grew after these assassination attempts. Senator, thank you so much. Congratulations.
Absolutely. Oh. Jesus, man, calm down, bro. And that was after he got snubbed for the running to be his running mate. It wasn't going to happen, Tim. So I was going to say I'm willing to withdraw all of my criticisms of Tim Scott if he finally goes ahead and starts doing the right thing, but I'm not going to. I won't. No, I'm sorry. Maybe you should do it just for your own, your own principles, your own soul, considering you just, sold it out to this guy who apparently posted the most racist thing this administration's ever posted. Maybe you should take it down. Maybe you should take him down. Maybe that should happen. Senator. He's a senator. Okay. By the way, in case you guys forgot, this is what always stuck out with me about Tim Scott. For some reason, Tim Scott is just Tim Scott one time had a long speech on the Senate floor about his specific issues with being profiled, the racism that comes from him because he's a United States senator, but he's too dark to be one, apparently even by the standards of some Capitol Police folks who stopped him. He didn't have his Senate pin on or something. He had a long story about how he got profiled, and he didn't respect it. He didn't appreciate it. Man, he was so upset about it. And he talked very eloquently, very clearly about the systematic racism in this country and how he was a target of it. That was before all this ass kissing for Donald Trump. So he goes through his normal political process of ass kissing. That's his approach. That's what he believes in. And it really works when it comes to a white supremacist. And then Tim Scott gets to be that guy. I wonder what Byron Donalds has said, if anything. Oh, somebody please find if Byron Donalds said anything, because those are the top 2 guys that always appear in my brain. Byron Donalds, representative who's running, I think, for governor of Florida now. And Donald Trump, I think, is starting to snub his dumb ass too. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong on that. He loved him some Byron Donalds too. Anyways, all right. It's almost the top of the hour. I have one more story to go. I mean, I think you guys can pretty much predict that by now. I talk a lot. I talk a lot. And I had 2 days where I didn't get to talk a lot here, you guys. So I'm talking more today. Why not? It's a Friday. I'm going to go a little bit over. So more apologies to one John Idarola, who I think celebrates a birthday this week. Tell him this is my birthday gift to him. I'm sorry, bro. I got one more story to get to, and it's a little bit intriguing. Did you guys know? Because yesterday I was talking about these ICE agents that are disgruntled, that aren't getting their health care, definitely not getting their $50,000 bonus because they didn't take it in a bribe like Tom Homan did. They're a little bit upset. They're frustrated. And maybe I was asking them, I said, when are you guys going to man up and maybe start, leaving, maybe start blowing the whistle on this whole operation? I mean, we already know what you're doing, but at least you can give us, a little bit of clarity of where you stand since you say you're such an American. So this happened in Los Angeles.
My job. I just quit my job. Yeah. My job. I just quit my job. Yes!
Now, we're looking to take the word of some random woman who drives out of, this ICE facility where they're all inside planning their next murder. But she drove up, rolled down the window, and apparently these are activists and protesters standing out here, and they record many of these guys coming out as they have to leave that particular exit. And she pointed out that she just quit her job very happily. We don't know if it's true, but she's only one person. If she did, that's actually good for her. Let's continue taking down the entire system. But I asked for it to happen, and maybe it took this lady to be one of, and she announced it. Maybe others are quitting in mass numbers, and I don't even know about it because they're not announcing it on camera. I just wanted to, I guess, give a little bit of a John Iadarola type of optimism. One of them left. Now, by the way, go ahead, go back home. I'll need to hear more from you. Just, I'm glad you're leaving the organization for yourself, for your own soul. That doesn't mean that makes up for all the terrorism that you took part in. You have to do a lot more work to come back from that. But I mean, it's a starting point. Maybe she's upset enough, or maybe she didn't get her bonus either, and maybe that's why she's leaving. If she's leaving, I just want to give that, that full account of what I believe really happened there. But still, things are starting to close in on this agency, specifically Department of Homeland Security, and all their illegal activities when it comes to Border Patrol and ICE, because more Democrats are stepping forward and saying and doing more. Specifically, as I talked about earlier, the funding when it comes to DHS. Here's one representative. Let me get his name right. Raja Krishnamurthy. And he was talking about some of the devastating things that ICE has done, the murders that ICE has taken part in. Here's some details of what he's upset about, and the reasons why they don't want to have more about. They don't want to have anything more to do with funding this murderous terrorist organization. Here's Representative Krishnamurthy.
The story of Mr. Silverio Villegas Gonzalez. Here's a picture of Mr. Silverio Villegas Gonzalez. Mr. Romanucci, he dropped his kids off at school one morning, and then ICE agents stopped his car. When he tried to drive away, the agents claimed that they, quote, feared for their lives and then shot him in the neck. Mr. Villegas tragically died of his injuries. Mr. Romanucci, videos from the scene do not show Mr. Villegas Gonzalez hitting or attacking the agents. You're not aware of any evidence to the contrary, right?
I am not aware of any of that.
DHS also claimed an agent was, quote, seriously injured, but body cam footage showed the agent in question said his injuries were, quote, nothing major. You're not aware of any evidence to the contrary, right?
I am not, and that is very typical of the cover stories that we hear and the false narratives in order to defend their actions.
There was no evidence. This is part of a pattern. As you know, Mr. Romanucci, Mr. Villegas Gonzalez was stopped and then he was shot dead. The nation knows the names of Renee Good and Alex Preti, but let us please not forget Mr. Silverio Villegas Gonzalez, a Chicagoan and a father of two, pictured here.
I love it from Representative Krishnamurthy. Make his name be remembered too. He was one of the first, at least the first on camera. Who knows how many they've murdered and we just don't hear about because there weren't enough people recording it at the time. But Representative Krishnamurthy is giving the case for Democrats and how they're increasingly, maybe slowly, but increasingly coming forward to maybe do something about all the atrocities that we continue to see. He gives another example in this same hearing where he focuses in on Greg Bovino. Yeah, Greg Bovino already left Minnesota, but did you know that Greg Bovino did all these other countless horrific illegal things? Here he is talking about that.
Stoughton, in a ruling on DHS's excessive use of force, U.S. District Judge Sarah Ellis accused Greg Bovino, a commander in the Customs and Border Patrol, of quote unquote outright lying. That's what this poster shows, and that's what he did in a court of law, right? In fact, during his deposition, Mr. Bovino falsely claimed and lied that he was attacked before he deployed tear gas at peaceful protesters in Little Village in the Chicago area, correct?
Yes, he lied about being hit in the head with a rock prior to returning from demolitions. That did not happen.
It did not happen. He also lied about something else. In court, he falsely claimed that he did not tackle a protester to the ground during a demonstration outside of Broadview's ICE facility. But here are the pictures of him doing just that. He lied, and he lied again. I've already called for Secretary Noem to be fired or impeached. Today, I'm calling for Greg Bovino to be fired. In addition, he must be investigated and held accountable for his actions, and I believe crimes in Chicago and across the country.
And nothing else should be done until these things are taken care of, until the criminals face some kind of charges. Greg Bovino is supposed to just ride off into the sunset, go back to California, and then retire with some kind of package, maybe a payoff system, so he doesn't continue to talk about how, you know, he was given these this authority to destroy people's lives. And speaking of that authority that he says he was given, did you know this, though, about Greg Bovino? This was reported just recently, too.
Gregory Bovino writing in recently revealed messages that he does not report to the head of CBP enforcement and removal operations, but directly to the Department of Homeland Security and Corey Lewandowski.
Wait, say what? Greg Bovino apparently put in some emails that he doesn't report to the head of the Border Protection, the agency that he's supposed to work for, but instead to Corey Lewandowski, the assistant to Kristi Noem, who cosplays all over the place. Corey Lewandowski, who's not in law enforcement. Corey Lewandowski, who's not an elected official. Corey Lewandowski, who's not an appointed, vetted official, but someone who just sits in the background and apparently gives people like Greg Bovino the authority to do all the horrific things that he was doing. That is before he runs away and gets to ride off with some kind of a package. The Daily Beast had some details as to what was in that letter and how it came together. Let me read that for you. So Greg Bovino lusted for a more heavy-handed approach to immigration in months before his foot soldiers started shooting people. That's what this leaked email has revealed. So Greg Bovino wasn't happy with the light touch that was happening. Whenever that light touch happened, he wasn't big on it because there was no bodies in the streets. Here's more. Their deaths, they're talking about Alex Preddy and Renee Good. Their deaths came after Bovino pushed back against guidance from the acting director of ICE to stick to targeted operations. The network of NBC News obtained an email apparently sent by Bovino to Department of Homeland Security leaders in the Capitol where he complained about the acting director of ICE, who's Todd Lyons. Todd Lyons is not a good guy, but apparently he didn't want Greg Bovino to be murdering people in the streets. And Greg Bovino said, well, F you, I'm looking to murder. I'm a Nazi. So in that note, sent months before federal agents shot those two folks in Minneapolis, Bovino complained that Lyons' preferred approach was too limp. Something that Greg Bovino is probably, very much accustomed to. He wanted Operation Midway Blitz in Chicago to be an all-encompassing sweep rather than targeted individuals who had committed crimes or were known to authorities prior, which it wasn't anyway. Here's a quote. Mr. Lyons seemed intent that CBP conduct targeted operations for at least 2 weeks before transitioning to full-scale immigration enforcement. That's what Greg Bovino wrote, and he was talking about how he doesn't like how this whole thing is going down. Here's the last quote from Bovino. He says, I declined his suggestion, and we ended the conversation shortly thereafter. Who knew that there was all this back and forth, this battling going on within CBP and Greg Bovino and his Nazi outfits? So this whole discussion and confrontation wrapped up with this email revealing this bizarre chain of command when Bovino said that he reported to Noam's aide, Corey Lewandowski. And he said, Mr. Lyons said he was in charge, and I corrected him, saying I report to Corey Lewandowski. So I guess Corey Lewandowski sided with Greg Bovino, sent him from Chicago where they were terrorizing people. Remember the canisters of tear gas they tossed at people when he said he didn't toss it at people? Remember he had his send-off in the middle of the streets of Chicago when he tossed a couple Heil Hitlers out when he was embarrassingly sent away? Apparently Todd Lyons and his horrible self won that battle, or maybe it was the courts and that one particular judge that kicked Greg Bovino out, and he was sent directly to Minnesota, where we see what has happened since. Apparently, he was deputized or given the authority by Corey Lewandowski. So because of all this that we're learning, and we saw a little bit about Representative Krista Murthy, who's pointing out the horrible things that we're seeing. Democrats are starting to get a couple pieces of a backbone together, and they're now holding up potentially the government to continue to stay open after they averted one government shutdown that happened just recently, like for a day or two. There's potentially another one in the works because now Democrats have a few demands when it comes to DHS before they're willing to fund them more. Here's details. Jeffries and Schumer laid out 10 key demands from Democrats on this DHS funding, which includes calling for judicial warrants before agents can enter private property. Wow, so over the top. A ban on ICE wearing face masks, requiring the use of body cameras, and new laws for use of force standards. Now, they didn't get into details of what those new laws were for those use of force standards, but I would assume it's not, murdering people. Here's more. Furthermore, there are steps that the Trump administration has the power to take right now to show good faith, including ramping down the surge in Minnesota and removing Kristi Noem from her position. That's what both Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer wrote in that letter. And after they wrote, that list of demands that they would like before they go and fund DHS, which they shouldn't fund even if they agree to those things, because it's still a terrorist organization on the American people. I feel like they must have been exhausted. Chuck Schumer and Hakeem were like, whew, oh, that's all we got all year. That backbone, that little bit of a pushback, these one simple list of demands that really tired us out. They finally had one thing that they say they're going to stand up for. So let's see if they stand up for it. But Senator Chris Coons, Democrat, he stepped on to CNBC and he talked to Joe Kernan. Joe Kernan is supposed to be talking about, things like finance and everything like that. And what Joe Kernan does not want is for there to be another government shutdown. Joe Kernan doesn't give a damn about the people that have been murdered, about the children that are in detention camps, about the continued assault on people in the streets, about the kidnapping of folks, about the disappearing of people, about the violations of people's due processes and constitutional rights. Joe Kernan doesn't care about any of those things. So he had Chris Coons on and decided to berate him about this new Democratic position to not fund DHS and their willingness to hold up this government so that this won't continue. This was their conversation.
Both caucuses, House and Senate, Democrats have laid out what I think are perfectly reasonable demands that your average American goes, yeah, okay, that makes sense.
But once again, you're using funding to get what policies that interest you, and it just is a bad
These
precedent.
aren't just policies that interest me. Joe, the idea that federal law enforcement
I know, but you're shutting down the government. You're shutting down the government.
It's the same rules that NYPD is following right there in Times Square right now.
When Republicans
do you see roving bands of NYPD
Senator,
with masks and
you're putting up another red herring. You're shutting down the government because
it's how you do policing.
You lost the election. You lost the election because you lost the election, which put you in the minority party. Doesn't give you the right to shut down the government to get what you want. Let me ask you this.
But it does mean I have to fight for the core values of our democracy, which includes supporting law enforcement that is accountable, that is transparent, but that doesn't murder American citizens in broad
When
daylight.
Republicans are in the minority, they have issues that they think that you disagree with. You don't want them shutting down the government to force.
Joe Kernan does not care that there's masked racists in the streets taking orders from Corey Lewandowski and Donald Trump and Stephen Miller because he wants his government open, because apparently there's some kind of financial advantages that Joe Kernan can get from keeping the government open in the face of all of these atrocities for the American people. I mean, Chris Coons made a couple decent points, but maybe you should ask Joe Kernan directly. So, Joe, why do you like for children to be separated from their parents? Why are you okay with the murder of people in the middle of the streets? Why are you okay with women being snatched out of their cars and stomped in the middle of the streets and then taken into detention centers where they're denied any kind of medical treatment? Why do you like that stuff, Joe? Because that's the case that Joe Kernan was making, which leads to this last exchange that they had, which may be even a little bit worse, because Joe Kernan first was talking about how you guys lost an election. Hey, Republicans lose elections all the time, and afterwards they hold up any progress. What did they do to Barack Obama and all of his potential judicial nominees? I remember that Mitch McConnell's bragging about how he held up all of them, because Mitch McConnell doesn't care about whether or not he wins or loses elections. But now Democrats are supposed to care about that. It's what's always kind of hobbled Democrats. They're like worried that someone's going to say, how dare you? And maybe in this particular instance, they're stopped caring about that. But this was a big moment, I think. After all those other declarations and arguments failed, Joe Kernan went to this one.
Why? Because there are conspiracy theories why you'd let in 10 million undocumented Democrats.
They're not Democrats.
I'm kidding. I mean, I'm saying that that's the whole that, and you don't want no ID voting. At the same time, you let in all these illegal.
I have to show an ID every time I vote in Delaware. Look.
But you see what I'm saying. You see what I'm saying. Democrats will never lose again if they're left to their own devices.
True, as you well know.
Look, God help us.
Why? Joe Kernan's pitching this great replacement theory that racists like to pitch. The conspiracy theory from these, MAGA conservatives that like to say, look, they're admitting all of these brown people that are, of course, only going to vote for Democrats illegally because there's somehow mass election fraud that Donald Trump likes to keep saying is happening. I guess Joe Kernan also thinks the election was stolen in 2020 from Donald Trump because this is his pitch. This is what Donald Trump says all the time. So Joe Kernan, in his fight with Chris Coons to say he wants to keep the government open, is somehow pitching, you guys are admitting millions and millions of illegals that are going to be voting in elections, and that's your purpose. You see how he was a little bit embarrassed when Chris Coons said, what are you talking about? I feel like this must be one of those moments, when a couple of white guys are saying racist things and then they're not sure one of them is going to say it and the other one's not sure if the other one's on board or not. So he kind of tests the waters. I don't know. This is a thought I have in my head. I don't know how much this actually happens. And he's not sure if that white guy is also as racist as he is. So he's like, can I pitch this whole theory? Because those brown folks are rigging our elections against us good lily white people. Was that him testing the waters and he forgot he was on TV and he didn't realize that Chris Coons wasn't going to buy into it, at least not on TV? I don't know. Maybe I have my own conspiracy theories. Who knows? I haven't been in those conversations before. Anyways, I hope these Democrats maybe find a way to continue to hold on to the bits and pieces of spine that they put together, the collection of guts that they've got. And not let folks like Joe Kernan and them tell you that you're destroying the country by shutting the government down. Not funding Department of Homeland Security, and then Republicans not agreeing to normalcy in this country, and therefore they don't get our money anymore. That's what they should stand up for. Joe Kernan. All right, you guys, that's the end of this. Only 15 minutes past. Happy weekend, everyone. Hope you guys enjoy your Friday. Hope you enjoy your days off if you get them, if you're blessed enough to get them. And we'll be back on the best damn day of the week. And next week will be clean and smooth sailing. I tell you what I'm going to do after this tech riddled week. I'm going to go and lay my ass down and do a lot of nothing. Man, I'm stressed out. Or maybe I'll do a bunch of nonsense, awake and alert. Who knows? I'll figure it out later. I hope you guys have a great weekend as well too. Tell John again, maybe one of these days I'll be on time. We'll see you guys later. Enjoy your weekend. See you later, Ma.